As an Argentinian who has lived in London for 8 years, I have definitely experienced the best and worst of each city. But what does each city really do best, and what is it really like arriving from a laid-back Latin city to a super fast-paced international city? Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Alejandro. I'm an engineer based in the UK, and on this channel we explore the engine that help us live a more purposeful life. First things first. Before moving to London, I lived in many places in France for 3 years, so I had some sort of transition period. So let's talk about 8 differences between life in London and in Buenos Aires. I want to save you time, so I'm leaving timestamps below. Feel free to skip and watch the one you actually care. But before starting, I need to say that everything that I'll mention in this video is before the pandemic and purely based on my personal experience. Things might be slightly different for different people. Brilliant! Let's get started. Number 1, weather. Alright. Do we need to talk about this? Isn't it too obvious? Okay, the weather in London is unpredictable. It's not wild or that dramatic, but it's always changing. Most days we see cloud, rain and potentially a bit of sun. It's not unusual to not have 3 elements in a day. This means when it's sunny, it won't be for long. And the Brits put down everything and run outside to stressfully try to take it all in. Days of sunny weather will never last more than 3 days. And days of rainy weather, the same. But cloud is by far the most common sky condition. In Buenos Aires, seasons are very distinctive. You know, when it's summer, autumn, winter and spring. Summer is probably the most challenging period as the temperature can go as high as 40 degrees. So it's common for people to have AC pretty much everywhere. Whereas in London, AC is not that common in residential properties, but more in offices and retail segments. Of course, in the last 10 years or so, we can see fluctuations everywhere due to climate change, but that's a different story. Number 2, groceries and food. In London, we can get most of what we need in a big supermarket. So let's say we can go to Waitrose, Marks and Spencer, Tesco, Sainsbury's, Aldi, Lidl, Asda, Morrison, what else? Iceland, Coop. I can't get this one right, sorry. There's so many stores in London. In Buenos Aires, buying food differs a lot. Instead of running into one store to get the weekly shopping, we prefer shopping at more targeted shops. We go to the bakery for bread, to the butcher for meat, and to the grocer for fresh vegetables and fruits. Supermarkets are really more for very basic stuff, so shopping takes a little while. In terms of food, London is seriously international. We all know the classic English breakfast, fish and chips, pies and Sunday roast, but this is not really a London thing, right? Like, this is more at the country level. So we can really choose if today we want to eat Indian food, Middle Eastern cuisine, Italian, Spanish, French, Asian, Peruvian, Mexican, Brazilian, African, vegetarian, vegan. You say the name, you have it in London. It's such a multicultural place. In Buenos Aires, there are a lot of meat restaurants as expected, even though it's not just unique to the city, but to the country itself. Believe it or not, nowadays vegetarian, vegan culture is a growing area. But what's interesting is that you can also find countless ice cream shops, pizza and empanadas, like Cornish pasties. It's really a big thing. Now you might think, hey, this is not Argentinian. Well, it's important to remember that there was a great European immigration wave to Argentina in the late 19th and early 20th century, consisting mostly of Italian and Spanish immigrants, and also in a smaller scale French and Germans. So many of us have at least 2 nationalities. In my case, Italian and Argentinian, but this is a case of many people from Buenos Aires. And I'm saying this because the food is also influenced by Southern European countries. Of course, as porteños, native people from Buenos Aires will say we invented everything, but we know it's not true. We just love controversy. Number 3, healthcare. Healthcare is not just something we can discuss at the city level. It's a country level conversation. In the UK, there's a state-funded system called the National Health Service, or NHS, which guarantees care for all. That means everything from ambulance rides and emergency room visits to long hospital stays, complex surgeries, radiation and chemotherapy are all free. Well, they're paid for with payroll taxes, right? In addition, any medication we get during a hospital visit is free, and the cost of most prescription drugs at the pharmacy are relatively cheap. But there's also private health care in the UK paid out of the pocket or through private insurance coverage. But only a small minority of residents go for it. If we're in the corporate world, there's a chance that we have access to private health already. In Argentina, there's also public and private. However, private hospitals are more common in Buenos Aires, and companies are required to provide health insurance for their workers. And most policies cover hospital visits and a variety of prescription drugs and treatments. Buenos Aires is also a popular destination for medical tourism, with many foreigners traveling to the city to get plastic surgery, as obviously it's much more affordable for people coming from abroad. So in London, it's okay just to have the free health service, NHS, whereas in Buenos Aires, something might be wrong if you don't have access to private health. I don't really want to go into a lot of details because both are very different scenarios, but I used in both cities public and private health, and I have to say public, you can have a long queue in both, although in London you can have access to more modern technology, and hospitals in London have much larger medical supplies. If you go private, both cities are fast, as most of the times when we pay for something, right? However, in London, appointments tend to be shorter. I had many times 15 minutes appointments, whereas in Buenos Aires, they give you 30 minutes. Once again, London is about business and also optimizing time, and sometimes in Buenos Aires, when we go to a doctor, we feel like we are also going to our psychologist. I feel like both cities and countries have really great doctors, but at the end of the day, budget is such an important factor in the success of the system. And because we're talking about systems, then let's discuss the time management system in both cities. Number 4, time management. Punctuality and efficiency are the keys to the hectic life of a Londoner. Whether it's rushing to get to work on the tube, eating a quick lunch at Prêt à Manger, a French name, but it's a British chain, or starting Friday night at 5 p.m, we don't waste a moment in London. It's all about optimizing every minute. This is bringing impatience, which is something that we better leave behind if we want to keep our sanity in Buenos Aires. Because porteños run on their own clock, which is one that has usually been set a couple of minutes or hours late. Buses in Buenos Aires, for example, they can have many stops and take you very far, but they don't have a predictable or consistent schedule. Same with the tube. And we know in London we have timetables that, even though there can be some delays or cancellations, generally they are consistent. Commuting in London is very structured, and we all know what to expect, whereas in Buenos Aires it can be more like an adventure sometimes. Meeting friends in London and in Buenos Aires is also a bit different. Let's say we want to go for a drink in London. We agree to meet at 7 p.m. and we'll be on time or potentially a minor delay. In Buenos Aires though, first of all, we will never meet at 7 p.m. as it's too early. We might agree at 9 p.m. and we'll be arriving not before 9:30 or 10 p.m. Don't ask me why. It's just like that. So for people living in London, might be a test of endurance and discipline to experience this in Buenos Aires. Hey guys, thanks for watching, and next week stay tuned because the second part is coming.